Two, one. Good morning, everyone, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another episode of Awesome Walkers. We are here with the one and only Nayla Al Khaja, the first Emirati film director.
I'm gonna use that new line now. I'm a film.
film.
Perfect.
Cut. Take action again. Yeah. Live is always challenging, right? Have you done anything that is live, like theater or anything?
Yeah, I've been on TV, live TV broadcasts, even
Mm.
news, like live news.
Welcome, Nayla, once again to Awesome Walkers. Pleasure having you over here.
Pleasure's all mine, and so excited to go through this journey with you and be transparent as much as possible.
Lovely. For the audience who are here for the first time, tell us who's Naila. Before we go dive deep, I know we can go on for talking for hours. The last time, the intro call itself, we went for like 2 hours, I think. So, just for the audience who is here, who is Naila before we dive deeper?
Um,
Who is Naila for you?
for me, it's just someone who doesn't take anything seriously. You
That's
have a
not,
limited time on this earth. You
yeah.
do what you're supposed to do, and you try to figure out what that thing is. You give it
Mm,
your best shot. You don't make life miserable for others around you, and then you check out.
mm,
And for me personally, that means the art of living. How to really enjoy your life, the joy, focusing on what you're trying to achieve, but not losing the art of being happy, because that's extremely important. That is probably everything. Because if you are in a space where you're comfortable, you'll also achieve some sort of positive reinforcement for the people that are very close to you and around you, or people who trust you. So it's a good combination.
you just said not taking life seriously, but the things that you do is a lot of serious stuff, actually.
It's a result of not being serious.
So, what does not being serious mean for you?
Not being serious, it means if someone throws an insult, I don't take it seriously. Yeah, I'm not, of course, I'm human. Sometimes it would hurt. I can't ignore that. But my fire, like, comes out, like, it's out very quickly. So I don't stay angry for a long time. Not taking life seriously, don't keep grudges. Uh, Try out new things, enjoy things, look at the bright side of things. If something doesn't work out, don't sulk in it, don't stay in this dark zone for a long time. Fine, you want to take a day and sulk and cry, but then come out, next day with a new perspective. So all these things are like not taking things too seriously in the way where they start overtaking who you are, and that's pretty much taking over your life, and that's not good. And I have this. My stepmother actually gave me a lovely quote, which I like to say. And when she first said it, I didn't grasp it immediately. My IQ was a bit, going on one engine. And she said, if you can't, if you're around people and they make you, they pull you down, they make you absolutely miserable because they're just constantly, hammering you negatively. And she's like, if you can't change them, change them.
Mm,
And that doesn't mean you go and change them. She means if you cannot change them, you physically change them. So like get rid of them basically. So if you
mm.
can't change them, change them. So yeah, simple. I've changed a lot of things and a lot of people. So
But one person that you have not changed is obviously your driver. You call him the rock star driver, right?
he is. He's amazing. And I really believe in him. I believe in his capabilities, his comedic timing. I really think he was born to be a comedian.
Mm.
And the fact that I'm a film director and he fell in this line, it was a complete coincidence or not. So I am developing a film for him. So he's very excited about that. Yeah, where he's
Yeah.
gonna star in it. Yes, it will be torturous because he's not easy to handle, but I think it will be worth it. It'll be a crazy journey.
When you said, I'm still stuck on that serious thing. And the reason is because a lot of my audience, a lot of people who are listening to this, They're people who are trying to find their way around life. They're trying to figure out things for themselves. They're trying to uh, identify what's their journey about, especially when they're listening to people such as you who's achieved and walked down that path. What made you take film directing seriously as a career for yourself? What was that moment where you realized this is something that I have to seriously consider as a way forward for me?
I don't know if there was a single like a spark or a moment where the as they say the bulb went on, but I feel like it was what you instill in children. Be careful what you instill in children because it will leave a lifetime mark in them. And it's ironic because my father, who I love very much, has one of the largest, if I film collections. And exactly, and as a child I had access to them. Maybe I shouldn't have access to all of them but I did. And I watched films from all around the world, but mostly a lot of Indian films, a lot of Indian black and white films that people haven't heard of. And I believe that although that was not the plan, excuse me, it left a very, very deep mark inside. And then it manifested itself as time went on because my original passion was never film. It was always painting. So I do oil on canvas. And I always envisioned myself to be like a renowned artist. Renowned, such a big word. But what I mean, just an artist that is, that I could kind of push my voice and my boundaries and thoughts through canvas. And then I even applied to go to Scotland, from all places, to the University of Dundee of Fine Arts. And life had a different plan. And I think I was around very young, 15 or 14. I stumbled into my uncle's 8 millimeter camera, and the rest was history. I did a little film, and I'm like, wow, this is fun. And my passion for fine arts didn't take the back burner as people may think. It's like, oh, it's so sad. Your paintings were insane, like even that age, and you stopped painting. And I said, no, I started painting with light because people don't realize that when you're creating, not all genres of film, but some genres of film or some categories of film actually require a lot of beautiful, stunning, composition. So all the terms that I used to like kind of flirt with when I'm painting, I brought these all into live action. Because if you pause a film and you have a still, you could see a lot of artwork there. You're painting with light, you're creating a composition, negative, positive space. But then what film had that fine arts didn't was that insane layer of energy which I crave, and the chaos that comes with it. So I feel like fine art was this beautiful, but very lonely solo space, whereas film is like you have 250 people on set and you can never buy that type of energy when you're just painting by yourself. Of course they both have pros and cons, but then I would say like film takes the cake for me because it's just so powerful as a medium as well. Like it fulfills you in many ways.
Do you remember as a child when you were watching those movies where you were not just watching but also analyzing them? Were
I
you?
don't think as a child I would analyze them. No, I know that I would just get be very immersive experience. Like I've watched, for example, Boot Polish, the black and white Indian film that was, not a lot of people know this, but it was nominated for the Oscars. And I didn't even know that. I mean, I found out like recently. I've watched that endlessly, and every time I'd watch it, I would still cry. And I think I just enjoyed how cinema can captivate your all of your senses. And as a child, that was so charming for me to. I was like literally charmed into the world of the magic of filmmaking. So yeah.
How do you get serious about, I'm going to use this word again, how do you get serious
I
about a topic enough that you realize I'm going to make a movie out of this? I mean, we come across so many topics, so many themes, but then you say, hmm, this one deserves a bigger canvas, a bigger audience. This subject needs me to go deeper into uh, in my own way. And how do you choose that?
I think it happens very spontaneously in my life, at least. Like I was going on, I think it was Singapore airline, and I met a woman next to me. As we were talking, she mentioned this. She mentioned a word, and it triggered a memory. And then I saw a little girl in the corridor, And I started like writing combinations of what she was saying and the girl, and then suddenly a story was born, and then one of my films came out of that. And then another incident is some things that happened to me viscerally as well become my film, which I think a lot of filmmakers will agree upon. If you have gone through a very horrific experience yourself, then that can turn into a film, and it's a very scary moment. Like when I was in one of the cities in my country, there was a massive flooding, which we don't really get these massive floods, but then, and I was in a conference in a different city, so I was put up in a hotel. And that night, they said we can't leave the hotel for 24 hours. The elevators weren't working. You need literally a boat to go out. Like you just can't get out. And the TV was not working. I was literally stuck in a room, and this was also no Wi-Fi, nothing. And I
Where,
wrote, sorry.
which city?
This was in Sharjah. It's a very rare occasion, but this is long, long time ago. I think 20, I don't know how many years ago. And I ended up writing a film called Bored, because I was bored. And it's called Malal, and I shot it in Kerala. And it's about a marriage, an arranged marriage, a couple that goes to Kerala for their honeymoon. And it's an arranged marriage. And she discovers once she's there that she has nothing in common, and she was bored out of her mind with this guy in the first 24 hours. So just to answer your question, how the ideas come. But of course,
Yeah.
there are some real life articles, magazines, um, even documentaries. Like, I'm not a documentary filmmaker, but there are documentaries that are so powerful. I love watching them. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if this could actually turn into a film or a series. So ideas can come from anywhere.
And there are so many ideas, and I'm sure there are so many ideas that you have not even started treating yet. You have not started working on yet, right?
Yes, of course, yes. So I have my first film is about to come out this year. My second one, Bob, that's going to be filmed also for Q1 next year. And then after that, I have two films lined up. So yeah, which are in development right now.
So
And by
are
film,
you
I mean feature films, feature length films.
are you the producer, the director, or everything
So
for
this is a
Bob?
very good question for Bob, for my second feature film. Okay, so for my second feature, for all my feature films, I've produced, and what does that mean? It means I have raised the finances myself, and it's because I understand the fiscal side of business, because I ran a production house for 18 years, where a lot of the projects that we used to work were self kind of induced. They were self creative, and money was raised for those as well, and they're in different forms. It could be short documentary forms, or even reality shows, which we failed miserably because we couldn't get it on TV at that point. This was a long time ago. So I had a lot of experience with the whole business side of things. So yes, I raised the money, and then I hire producers with the money I raised. So I'll hire two producers who have way more experience than I have. So then at least I cushion myself with people who know what they're doing. But at the same time, because I've raised the money myself, I have the last call.
Mm.
I take the last shot. So it's almost like I have a vision for the film, and I want to make sure that I'm very true to it, and I make sure that people that are around me will lift it up and not pull it down. It's very, very grueling, very painful experience, I have to say. But because of my nature of not being too serious all the time, especially, I managed to have, and I would say, I've learned to have an insane amount of patience with very difficult personalities, and I know how to work with them if they're worth it.
Mm. And what made you take a conscious decision to work on three films together versus just on one?
So I'm not working on them together. They're not working in parallel, right? So one is like now being delivered, the other one is being developed. The script is locked, and some of the finances are in. So by the time the first one is out, I'm gonna go full speed on the second one, which is raising the remaining of the money, and then getting into pre-production, and then shooting early next year. Now, while that is happening, I have a writer who is developing my third film. So I don't want to be in a situation where I'm done with my film, and then I'm like, now what? And then it takes you another year to develop. That just wastes a lot of time. But of course, it's also mad for me to think I can go on like this, because the idea is to make one, two, three films and just pray to God that one of them sticks, finds a home, and lands really well. And what I mean by that, either cultural success or financial success, some kind of reputation that can be built through them. which would enable me and empower me to raise a larger amount of film, to have like a 8 picture slate or 7 picture slate. So basically, a mini studio. That's my dream.
Hmm. And where do you see the narrative of the entire international film industry going? I see there's a lot of interest in Turkish movies and
Yes.
dramas. There's a lot of interest in the Middle East now coming up. Korean is picking up a lot of notice. So people are moving just by sticking just to Hollywood and watching everything these days, right? And what's the narrative that you see is emerging?
Yeah, I think streamers like, Amazon, Netflix, even in our world, Shahid, I'm sure India has a few, other places, Asia has a few. They have really, created, like what we say, digital democracy, because they've broken down the whole system of monopoly, where you have now one big body releasing films to the world, and then the independent films struggle because they don't have a platform, specifically that word, which has changed my life. Let's say, let's take the film that I made in Kerala, right? That film, people feel very warm and fuzzy when they watch it, and they're like, oh my god, it was such a nice journey to watch that film. But because it's so old, it only made festival runs. It never came out. But my last two films, Animal and The Shadow, are streaming now as we speak on Netflix live over 120 countries.
Hmm.
And that's incredible. I mean, look at the amount of eyeballs. And because of that experience alone, and because of the fact that I have two films on Netflix, it just puts you at a different kind of level. People take you more seriously. If I get commissioned, which I don't mind, on projects as a director, then that has helped me tremendously. So I feel that even the way we look at language cultures, streamers have really broken that down. For example, my husband is Swiss, from Switzerland. He would never watch, let's say, I don't know, a Spanish film or an Indian film. And he's watching an Indian documentary, a mini series. And I was like, wow. And, in the past, he would refuse to watch anything that's foreign, especially when we go to festivals, just not used to it. But now he does. And he has a very open mind, and his perspective has changed. Even his taste in filmmaking is more refined, in my opinion. So yes, we are in an age where it's more exciting, where language is not a barrier anymore, and where people from anywhere can create content and find an incredible home for it.
So when you pick your stories, are you thinking global? Are you thinking local? Are you thinking regional? What are you thinking? Who is your audience when you uh, pick a film and decide this subject to pick up?
I mean, it depends on the film, so it's a legitimate question. So every film has a different type of audience. I am also attached on a film called Magic Carpet: The Search for Now, which is for a very young audience, 13 plus. So it's like, let's say, Narnia, that type of filmmaking. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story. But let's say, for example, that film, because I'm commissioned, the audience is global. It's actually a film from the States. Whereas my own films, just as an example, like the first film that's coming out, it's a cross-cultural elevated horror, what they call psychological thriller, and the audience would be 20 plus. And honestly, the primary audience, I would say, in my opinion, would be Arabs worldwide, and maybe even Muslims worldwide. So the 1.67 billion Muslims in the world, because it's based on Islamic rituals. But it's not really about the religion at all. It's more a social. It's more of a social commentary, because it's about how far a mother will go to save her son against the adversities that she's facing through, Eastern, some um, beliefs that are rooted in our culture, that's not even linked to the religion itself. And I want to expose these that have nothing to do with Islam, but are still being practiced, that are still hurting individuals. And then I also brought a Western perspective, where you have the Western doctor. And I want to make this very clear. He's not there to save us. He's there to get lost with us, which is what I like about the film, that he's as fragile as everybody else. And I like the fact that he accesses this Arab family that's very conservative. So, it's a very different take, and it's a very fresh take. You never see this on film. And I think, as default, and I don't know if there's any messaging, but I hope, uh, as a side effect, that it will show Arab women in a very, I wouldn't say different, but definitely a much more layered and rich texture, where she's not just someone who is fighting for freedom and wants to be liberated the way we are always painted. But this is someone who is quite maverick, who's quite different, broken, weak at times, strong at times. So it's very rich in the diversity of her personality. I mean, I have two women in the film, and they're both extremely different. They're both sisters. One is conservative, and one's more open to new ideas and change, and one is opposed to change, which really, if you think about it politically, there are two. Most people fall into those two groups. You have the conservatives, and then you have the liberals. So I have the two sisters kind of embodying that in one family. And but then in the end, even there was the clash of ideologies, clash of just deep rooted culture. In the end, they have one objective, and is to save the child. So I really believe it's an international theme. I believe that the primary audience will be Arabs, but then ultimately the film will definitely attract, I think, different markets. So I would say Middle East, Asia, and then the rest of the world. So that's how we're hitting it also hard with marketing.
Hmm. And when you say marketing, how do you market your movies? Because once you put it on Netflix, do you have to do anything more than that for marketing it, or just having it on Netflix itself is
Yeah,
enough to
so
say?
the journey of each film is very interesting, and I think every film must have a roadmap. And a lot of my conversations with some filmmakers, especially, I mean, I know it's my first feature film, but it's not my first film because I have a body of lots of films, documentary features I have as well. So it's my first narrative feature film. So I've gone through the ringer of how do you think about distribution, packaging, marketing, way even before shooting your film. People tend to forget that. They tend to put a budget in their film budget, although I know there's P&A and distributors have their own marketing budget. But sometimes you want to do something just to push it a bit more, so that when it reaches a top tier sales agency, there's a lot of news about the film. So it's good to have a budget in your film that's catered to, let's say, PR activations, public relation, event launches for the film that you do yourself because you have ideas, and you want people to see the film the way you want to see it. And that doesn't mean the full screening. I mean, like, it could be the trailer of the film or whatnot. So initially, once you're done, you will have your film, and you then have a sales agency attached. So it could be one of the top agents. There's so many sales agencies nowadays in the world. A lot of small ones are coming out, but you need to also, I always say this, if you have a house and there's a budget for your house, you can't just go and get, like, let's say a Bugatti, or Fendi or some big brand if you're not there yet, if the house doesn't have that spirit. You need to understand where your level is, and try to match everything at that level. So if the film punches really hard, and you aim high, and you go to a sales agency that does like top tier films, and they say, yes, this is a film we absolutely can believe in, we can sell it for you, then that's really, really good for you. But if you feel that it's a decent film, and it can find its place, there are a lot of boutique sales agency that can take your film. So they don't have to be one of the top, let's say, 15 in the world. And they will still do it. Some of them are very hungry. They will still do a very good job. So what do they really do? I mean, for people who are interested, when a film cycle, like you finish your film, the sales agency takes it, and then there's something also a festival agency as well, where they help broker it into festivals that they feel the film would be a great fit. So they knock doors of different festivals, and whether it's the world premiere, regional premiere, whatever that may be. So there's a plan, there's a roadmap for each film. And that's it. Once it gets into a festival, the sales agency is already attached. You do a big press conference, and then you have different offers from buyers. And buyers can come from many, many colors and themes. And you mentioned something about Netflix, which is very, very important. It could be that you're super lucky, and a big streamer comes along and says, I will take your film completely off the market. Completely. I'll give you X amount of money, and you guarantee profit at that point, and they remove it from the market. I mean, I would do that with my eyes shut without thinking, because you know how people lose money in film like every other day. So now you're guaranteeing your investors money. Like, they will definitely come and invest in your second, third, fourth film,
Mm.
because it's your first movie and it made money already. Wow, hats off, right? So people dream to be in that position. It's not the norm, although I've heard a few occasions. But then you take the traditional route, where you launch it at a festival, then you go to the sales agency, then will sell it to distributors worldwide. The distributors of every territory, every country in the world will sell it in their country. and then you make the your portion, your cut out of it. Everyone takes their cut, and then the money goes back to the investors, producers, whomever has shares in the film, and then that goes on for months and months, and then in the end you'll sell it to a streamer. It's almost like the streamer's like the last kind of place, and then of course you have the old school cable TV, hotels, video on demand, and whatever, airlines, and just goes on and on and on. So there are many windows to sell your film.
So your first feature film is Bob, right?
No, my second feature film is Bob.
Second feature, first one
My
is.
three, very easy to remember, number three. And
So
both films have I would say the a little touch from Rahman, which is really lovely because in the second film he is completely composing the score. He's basically the main, he's the composer for Bob, and it's super exciting because as soon as I'm done with the storyboard, we're gonna sit together and we're gonna think of how we're gonna treat the main song and important moments in the film. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it will be his first Arabic film song. So that's exciting for me.
what was your sales pitch to him? What made him get on board with you?
I honestly don't think I had a sales pitch as much as I just spoke about cinema and just expressed how I feel and what I want to do. And obviously I spoke about the film, but maybe he sensed my passion, maybe he sensed how serious I am, and then he's like, I'm in. I love this. And for my first film, he's not directly involved, but he has recommended his. He had a debut film called The Musk,
Hmm.
and then the sound designer, the sound mixer of that film, um, Krishnan, is doing my audio mix for my first feature film. So that's the link for the first one. So that's how I'm saying he has an indirect print on my first one as well.
Looking at you and looking at so many other women that I see in the other world right now, the dynamic of the women over here are also changing dramatically, right? The role they're playing in impact on
In
society in terms of leadership, in terms of taking ownership,
You mean in general or in film?
in general, also. In
Yeah.
film, I don't know. How is it in films?
In films, we're extremely outnumbered, right? So, like for example, cinematographers, like women who actually physically do the lighting for the film, they direct, they're DOPs. There's 3% of females in film cinematography, which is unreal, unbelievable, actually. But I can believe it because they got it very late in the industry. I don't think it is. I don't think it comes from a vicious space from men. I don't think men said, "Oh, we're not going to allow women in this space." No, I just feel like women got into the space quite late because it was so hard to break into the boys' club. And the whole Me Too movement, everybody knows this. It has just, it's caused a lot of, mind riot for a lot of studios, but in the same time, it has opened a lot of gates for women to go through if they're serious about this career. There's a big number of producers. I think, when I'm mistaken, the number is around 30 plus, which is quite a lot. Not many directors, around 12% of female directors worldwide. Still a very small number. So that means, you do the math, for every 10 films, I think roughly two are directed by women. And I was reading data the other day, which is quite sad. The the higher the budget of a film, the lower it is for a female to direct that film. It says a lot about trusting us with their money. So what do you do in that situation? Raise the goddamn money yourself.
Mhm.
Simple, you know? Then you control the narrative 120%. And that's what I did with my first film. Now, whether that was an epic mistake or going to be as I said, it will find its place in this world, then we just have to wait and see. It's a risk I took. I believe in it. I think it's very different and fresh than anything has come out, at least from my country. I can't speak of everywhere else. There's been some beautiful movies made here in the UAE from fellow filmmakers. And I feel like this has a very different kind of mold to it. It's a very different voice. And again, filmmaking is a super collaborative teamwork. And I say this with all my heart, that without my head of departments, without their, some insane skills I had on set, there's no chance I would have crafted what I have. You need those guys really are on top of their game. So I'm very humbled by having an amazing team of artists with me working on this. Yeah.
Speaking of collaborators and resources, How much are you leveraging on artificial intelligence or AI?
Not at the moment, but I think in the marketing I will, because there's a new marketing technology where they use it to do face mapping when people are watching a film, so they understand if your audience is watching or bored or on their phone, so the content is not really grabbing them.
Hmm. Have you explored ChatGPT?
Yes, I did it very aggressively at the beginning. I stopped now.
Mhm.
I feel that if someone uses it, I can tell you they have used it, because it, you know, even if you're very smart with it, it has helped. It helps me with like if I'm like really tired and I'm not bothered, I will copy paste my emails, mostly for emails, just to sound. If there's a different tone, I want something a bit more formal tone, or it helped me with tones, I think, than anything else. But um,
What about with script
funny
ideas?
because it's funny because when I wanted a number, Google couldn't find me a specific number for a hotel, and chat. I mean, I don't use ChatGPT for that, but I thought let me just try, and it actually got me the number. It was like this little, yeah. Anyway, for script ideas, no. I think I did it for fun once, and I thought it was really crappy.
Yeah. When it comes to movies, movies are really a good one is leaning into the emotion side of
Hmm.
human element. And do you find it surprising that women are not leading the narrative more, because women are more emotional than men in general per se, right? Men are more analytical, logical, and uh, the potential, because we are seeing right now as women leaders, they are succeeding more wherever they are in the world. They bring in a level of empathy
Hmm.
that men do not bring when it comes to leading organizations or countries. So,
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I do agree with the statement that not necessarily taking over, but being pretty much deep in the skin of the game with men in any industry gives that industry more empathy, more beauty, more finesse, I think. I mean, um, and we haven't had the chance to really be on it. Like someone said, oh, if you think of all the top people in the world, they're all men. Yes, but how long were women in that space? And how many? Because it's a numbers game as well. If you have, let's say, it's in the battlefield, the play field, it's equal, and it's not just equal 2 years ago, but it's been equal 100 years ago. Then we can have a perfect data coming out of that. You can't tell me that a person is best because there's 1,000 guys to one woman. And obviously, there will be a man that'll be better in that category, right? Makes sense. Makes complete sense.
yeah.
Yeah. So yes, having a woman in anything adds more compassion and empathy, and especially in film. We're tired of these big muscles. I call them big muscle movies, where it's all about effects. And yes, it's fun. I mean, I'm guilty of it. I watch it every now and then, and I'm sure it's fantastic for a much younger age group. And I'm finding my taste also changing, so I barely watch them now. But yes, they're important. But I think Hollywood, or in general, a lot of the big studio films, they've lost their heart. They really have. They've gone completely plastic, and I'm yet to see films that we've had, in the golden era of cinema, where it really goes in character development, just old classics that are just so beautiful. Even now, if I sit with my sisters who are like 13 and 15 years younger, and they watch like films that they never had access to because they were too young, they'll be like, oh my god, it was such an amazing film, like why haven't we heard of this? And I think instead of just that, which is also important because it's good to see films from the past, well, we don't have a big current collection now where I'm like, oh, this is fantastic, but you do find plenty of these in the independent world, but you don't
Mm.
find them in the studio world. And I feel the studio world needs that, because obviously they have, as we talk about marketing, they have an insane advantage, because they have insane budgets for marketing, so they can absolutely penetrate homes.
They are less prone to taking chances. Is that the reason why they're not doing what independent movie makers are doing?
Well, obviously their formula is working, I think, if that's what they're telling us. I mean, if they, Unless you're a complete fool, you're repeating yourself over and over. It means, someone's making money.
Yeah. And you look at movies these days, there's a lot of agenda that every movie or studio has that they have to, right? I don't have to go there. You have
I'm leaving now. I'm leaving. It's nice you keep like the hot, the most sensitive questions to the end.
yeah. So,
I'll answer you. No worries. I know what you mean. 100%.
yeah.
I think art should be left alone. That's my opinion.
Hmm.
Once you have a checklist, and I see this, and festivals are doing it now. It's very sad. They're like, people play festivals these days. It's terrible. I've seen filmmakers say, you know what, I'm gonna make a film about this group. They're oppressed. I'm gonna put an artist in it that's of color, and it gets in festivals, like a lot of festivals. And I'm like, wow, because there's this, whether it's their agenda or not, they know that this is the hottest thing, so they
Hmm.
will accept these films. This is absolute BS. Let people do things that upset you. Let people do that thing. This was always art. Art's not supposed to make you feel comfortable the whole time. It's supposed to push boundaries, supposed to break the status quo, it's supposed to give you another road to a
Hmm.
land that you've never seen before. Otherwise, what are we doing? We're just repeating ourselves, and it becomes an agenda. And you can people aren't stupid. There's an innate feeling. You can tell, oh, there you go, of course they have this character, of course. Oh, there you go, it's a and nowadays there's a very clear agenda of a certain type of people in films, and God forbid you don't put them. I mean, I was actually in a meeting with a very big streamer, not Netflix, but I won't say who. And we were sitting there, I think we were like 12 people. It was a big meeting, and it went on for a while. And she's like, well, can this lead be, non-white? And I didn't say anything, and I just quietly typed to my friend. I'm like, no, 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 don't do that. You're gonna just kill the film. Not because I'm against that color, simply because that character in history was not white. Why are you trying to push something that's not real?
Hmm.
um and it really, really aggravated me. I mean, obviously that, it didn't take place, the whole project fell through, but it just shows you the agenda is real.
Yeah.
I hope that dies, because I feel that. So we went from, let's make films that have no emotions because it's all packed with special effects, to now making films with special effects and an agenda. So it's like getting from worse to worse to worse. Okay, maybe, you know what, now more filmmakers will be empowered to be more transparent and have films on streamers. And I just hope streamers will be bold enough to welcome those films and not start censoring, because then that's the death of any art, I believe.
How do people keep their no, I get the answer, go and find your own finances. But if you don't find those finances and you really want to kick off your career and you really want to do something and you want to make that first movie and second movie and say, okay, after I finish that, then I will have, uh, what do you tell to those new uh, budding filmmakers who want to really do something, make a difference? Is it wait it out or,
No, watch Dove Simmons. Don't know if I'm saying this name right. It's like Dove S.S. Simmons. I don't know. He's he's like a film teacher. Some people, find him too loud and obnoxious, but he says a lot of truth, and he's fantastic for filmmakers who want to do their first feature film. He has some absolutely insane advice, and he'll tell you how to kickstart your career.
hmm.
This
So
is just advice, because I like practicality. It's a we can dream and talk in circles, but sometimes when you watch, people who have done it and they have legitimate podcasts for film finance and how to raise money, I think those are the forms that a lot of beginner filmmakers should go and watch and try to implement it. And it doesn't have to be such a scary task. Like, you don't have to, your first feature film doesn't have to be, let me put it this way. If you're really at the beginning of your career and you want to make your first film, don't make it complicated. Like, write a script that doesn't have lots of effects, that's not too complex, that doesn't require, many locations. Like, the if it's more contained, that's the right word. Your budget will be slashed in half, and it'll be easier for you to raise money for that. And also, besides the traditional way of raising money, with typical cash, which we say cooking on gas, because if you're only using 100% cash, that's dangerous.
Hmm.
You need to dissect that pie. So let's say you have 30% cash. I know films that have only used 20% cash. The rest is all different types of ways of fundraise. You know, there's rebates, tax incentives, grants. These are massive for filmmakers. Some grants are really big. Like I remember DFI, Doha Film Institute. They used to give grants over half a million US dollars. You can make an entire film for that. You don't have to raise another penny. See what I mean? There's so
Yeah.
many grants in the world, and there's also these newsletter that I receive monthly, where they update filmmakers and they give you all the new grants that are coming out constantly in the world. You'll be amazed how many we don't know that are looking for your voices and looking
Hmm.
to give you money in these spaces. Strong script, contain script, even apply for script awards, because if you win one or two, that will also help with your grant. So there are steps, tricks along the way. Just be informed, educate yourself. Yeah.
You said there's a there's a team of around 250 people on a set
Not on every day, on a given day.
on a given day.
Yeah.
What would be the majority be doing mostly? Are they actors or are they there's a lot of
Extras, a lot of
extras and
extras.
crews? Okay. All right. I know you love this question, and I'm going to ask an extended version of this. What's the distinction between a film, a cinema, and someone who creates content on YouTube?
Why? Why the torture? I'll make my next feature, the torture with Samir.
The-
Um, so nowadays, I think that the line is blurred, film and movies. It's really blurred, because in the past, a film, they would, in the past, the definition was a film is a film. And once it hits the big silver screen, it becomes a movie. But with streamers and everything else that's going around, that's not applicable. Film is a
Hmm.
film, period. You can watch it on your phone, Netflix, cinema, it's a film. But in the past, it had a very different a very different meaning. The second part of the question was YouTube. What
Yeah,
was it?
so there's a lot of professional YouTube content makers who make
Yeah.
uh,
Amazing
move
content. Correct.
amazing content, and they're choosing to go with YouTube rather than go with Netflix or reaching out for producers or I don't know if you
Probably,
follow.
probably it's their vibe. So I'll give you a good example, right? If I'm making a horror that needs a lot of effects and just very dark lighting and mood, that's going to be very expensive to create something like that for YouTube, right? Like imagine if a movie is worth 2 to 3 million US dollars.
Hmm.
You want, I don't know, unless you're like a Joe Rogan or someone who can easily do that, then fine, because you have your audience. So I guess it also attached to what's your audience number on YouTube,
Hmm.
because really it's always the audience that brings you the brand equity, that gets you the money, right? So this has happened to me. It actually breaks my heart. So I get a big brand. Oh, we want to work with you. Can you send us your data, your followers? And I'm like, I send them, and they, oh, okay, we'll come back, and then never hear from them. It's like, because across my platform, I don't have millions. I haven't even reached 100,000. I think I'm at 92,000.
Hmm.
But that's never been my objective, and maybe I'm at fault. It just doesn't come naturally to me. I'm not someone who enjoys posting every day, or even every other day, or even every week. If you see my actual permanent post, they're very every now and then. If it's something I feel it's worth posting.
Hmm.
So it doesn't come naturally to me. I always say that social media killed my traditional media, because back in the old days when there was no social media, I actually had an incredible traction with traditional media. I made like 9 magazine covers, even one in Africa, London, Cannes Festival. I was on the cover. Like traditional media really pushed my career big time. And then when social media came, it completely killed my traditional media. But I couldn't get on the one wagon. I couldn't get on the horse and get galloping with it. I just didn't. I just fell off very quickly, because it wasn't true to my nature. So I really, really struggled. I tried to be consistent, to do all this stuff. And people say, "Oh, why don't you do your own podcast for film and women?" And I'm like, I don't know. Again, too busy, I guess. Not for me.
So there's a lot of changes that's happened in the last 10 years, from digital traditional marketing and media to
Mhm.
social. And we spoke about the democratization of movies. And do you see the traditional sales agencies and marketing agencies moving away, and the people taking ownership of movies moving forward and saying, we want to watch this? And
I
uh,
mean, word of mouth will never die. That's always your number one weapon, right? If the content is brilliant, it will start spreading really fast. Even let's say an influencer who has millions, if she or he watches a film, and they really love it, they will probably organically even spread the message, you know. But yes, they people like distributors need to have alternative methods of marketing that's non-traditional. Otherwise, they will lose out. You know, whether it's a marketing campaign with other brands where there's incentive for people to watch that film. Let's say for every for every coffee you buy, for example, you get an extra ticket with your friend to go watch this movie. It could be so many different collaborations, but also collaborations with people like you, with voices that are out there, that are pushing hard. So I feel that's very important, to be collaborative. That's why I always say put a budget in your film budget that can contribute to that, and the investors will have shares against it. It's not a waste, but you work with, I mean, it's easier when you're in the country and you work with, let's say, Vox Cinemas, your local distributor. They will have a P&A budget, printed advertising budget, and then you say, okay, well, I also want to do one, two, three, four, and they're like, well, that's going to increase, and they're like, no, we will co-invest and we will put that money in, and usually that money in comes before the investors' money. So then you take that from the waterfall that comes out first, and then the investors get their profit share after that. So there are many ways of doing this. My advice also, if people want to make a film, it's very hard for your first feature film if you haven't established yourself. And my heart goes out. I've been through it. It's horrible, but build relationships. I cannot stress how important it is to build relationships in any field. Build relationships, make them genuine, and especially with producers, like you need someone who has a lot of experience. I couldn't have done what I've done without my producers. I can't. I mean, I know I'm the main but the producer who is, like, to me, top tier, who's expert, who has a lot of expertise in sales and understands the inside out of, because he's done 25 feature films. There's no arrogance or ego in the world can beat, like, they can claim that they know more than him. It's experience. You can't buy that. So
hmm.
what do? You hire that. You don't buy it, you hire it. So hire people that are better than you, and park your ego. There's no space for it. Samir will tell you that.
Hmm. Where do you see the whole? Do you see an evolution of the industry moving forward? Do you see that there is going to be a change, a tectonic shift, not like a gradual incremental shift, but like a massive shift? Do you see anything coming?
I You mean in content creation, or?
No, in terms of how the market itself is, the whole industry is. Do you see any major changes? Because we didn't see Netflix coming, we didn't see Amazon coming, we didn't see the video cassettes going out of.
I
Uh,
think it will take some time, but I think AI will change things very rapidly. So there'll be probably more content. That doesn't mean more quality. There's be more content.
why not more quality? Do you
Well,
see movies being?
answer me that question. Do you see a lot of quality that's coming from Hollywood? Is this the same formula over and over? And I'm not saying it's bad. It's probably good for business, but we miss, the further we go away from the basics, the further we go away from the soul. The more we get into technology, the more we leave behind what matters, and that's the empathy part that I'm talking about, the real human connection. We need those type of films. We're becoming very cold, and the
Yeah.
earth is becoming very warm very quickly, which is scary. If we'll be around making movies, who knows? Another 100 years.
Do you think there would be a day where there is no sets, no producers, nothing? AI in a jiffy is making a movie completely from scratch, end to end, probably in
Yeah,
like 10 minutes.
yeah, yeah. Of course, it's inevitable.
Yeah. There is a question from an audience over here that I just saw, which is how to know more about grants.
Oh, how to know about grants? Well, if you give me a second, I can give you the actual website which you can actually subscribe to, where they will send you film grants or film information.
I thought in a moment you're going to give him a grant.
So it is called filmdaily.tv. That's the website, filmdaily.tv.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see my phone, but they've already sent me, like, you see, like
Okay.
all the American Zoetrope, like all the grants that are being out now.
Hmm.
Yeah. So the Berlin Talent Labs, Eurodocs, like it just gives you a newsletter with everything that's happening.
And when they give you a grant, what do they expect in return, apart from you producing and
So each body would have a specific target audience that, like for example, here the fund supports film productions from Asia, Africa, Latin America, and Eastern Europe. So they have specific areas where they want to focus. And then if they give you the grant, some of them are smaller, as small as $20,000, $50,000, but it all adds up and it's grants. So they will tell you what, if they want the money back, or if they don't, if it's, some grants actually, I have experienced one that actually wants the money back. I mean, they will have different kind of prerequisites. One of them would be obviously having their logo, in association with
yeah,
X, the name, and then each grant will have their different type of requests.
they
Yeah.
would ask you to subtly put their message inside?
No, 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 never.
They don't
Because
interfere.
your script is the like your if your script gets accepted, that's your script. That is your message, right?
So you
Yeah.
share your script with them. You share the storyline with them, or you
Yeah,
just
yeah,
share
yeah.
the idea with them.
No, no, you share the full script.
Hmm.
Unless you are applying for a script writing grant,
Okay.
then you share everything else that will help you write that script. But if you have a ready feature script,
Hmm.
then you apply to feature film grants or documentary grants. By the way, true story, there are more documentary grants in the world than feature films. So if you're a documentary filmmaker, consider yourself luckier. And I think is there not, well, first of all, they documentaries are from documenting real life. So a lot of these grants have an attachment to human like rights and voices and whatnot. So they tend to be attracted to documentary filmmaking because I said it goes into messaging. But at the same time, they're also cheaper to make. True
Hmm.
story.
Here's another question for you. Art should be left alone. Love the statement. If so, what are your views on censorship?
Hi, Harish. Views on censorship. This is an excellent question because knowing where I am and where I live, I had to be. Now it's more open, my city, Dubai. So when I used to write my older scripts, I noticed that I was self censoring just completely by default because I'm so used to what's allowed and what's not allowed. And when I started self censoring, it really weighed on my soul. Like it was just like, I don't want to censor this, right? But one positive thing happened from that. It gave me my voice. I started writing in the art of symbolism. So and it landed even harder. So I would give you the message without showing you, but I'm showing you indirectly through the art of symbolism, and it was very powerful that way. And had I not have these shackles, I wouldn't be able to break out through the art of symbolism. I don't have to do these things these days. Um, but to me, it's like directly proportional to one another. Like leave the art alone, leave art alone, and at the same time stop censoring people. Why are you censoring people? Unless that's why we have 13 plus, 15 plus, 18 plus age groups. That's why we have different timing zone on TV where late nights only for adults. People have already protected society by, or children specifically, by categorizing these things. And as a parent, you're responsible. You want to make sure that what your kids are watching. But as adults, what are we exactly censoring? We have access to everything. Are we censoring a political message? Scares off some government agencies? Are we censoring social topics that, again, could upset a certain group of people? And that's for me I mean, aren't we going through the beginning of the death of free speech, and I'm saying this with my eyes open in the Western world. Isn't that scary? I mean, that's something I never thought I'd say. It's an oxymoron, but yes, we are witnessing that. So there you go. I don't know if I answered your question. I'm trying.
Hmm. And when you think of censorship right now, do you uh, the question just passed away from my mind.
No worries, no worries. Did I censor my first two feature films? Absolutely not.
You did not.
No.
There's another. You spoke about there's more grants for documentary,
Hmm. Because of
but
the
you
nature of documentaries.
but that's not something that you're interested in.
I love watching them. I have immense respect for any documentary. Some of these documentary filmmakers, I know a guy who took 6 years, 6 years to finish his documentary because he wanted to do it over time and to watch that character grow and see what happened. So it was like almost like unfolding live in front of him. So they have this insane, I mean, I'm talking about my patients, probably, it's nothing compared to those guys and women who strive to really be authentic with their storytelling. No, in summary, I don't, because I'm not a documentary filmmaker. I'm a documentary connoisseur. I love watching them. I respect them. But in the end, I like painting. Remember my original passion? So I try to paint with light. So if you see my first film, you'll see that I have put a lot of passion in the cinematography with my DP, McAllen. We really pushed boundaries to make it look visually gorgeous. So in my second film, Bob, with A.R. Rahman, it's purely aesthetics. The whole film is like composition and art. It's like a moving pic. It's a moving art. So that's why I can't do documentaries, because it's so far away from reality. My films, it's magic realism. It's fantasy.
His daughter is also actively involved in music direction, I think, right?
Yeah, so there's Khadija Rahman, who is a singer and composer. She's an artist on her own and absolutely glowing. And there's Rahima Rahman, who has been in the art department of my first feature film.
Hmm.
So yeah, so she was involved in that, and she'll be involved in my next film as well, more heavily.
Now the question has come back to me. What I wanted to ask you, it was about the symbolism. You said, can you give an example of how you have used a symbolism that when you use it, you're like, wow, this came to me, and you know, it's perfect for this setting. Any one example that uh, resonated with you deeply?
Yeah, I think a film that I made called Arabana, like Arabana, which means the wheel, the wheel where you put your garbage and you throw the garbage. I'm sure there's a proper name for it. Escapes my mind right now. Do you know the name of the wheel? Sorry. Anyway, so in this film, the girl is molested sexually by the gardener in the house, and every time she goes to his room, we don't know what happens. It's behind closed doors, but we know it's completely off because of his body language. And what is she doing in his room? And he's always like watching out behind his shoulders, and there's that subtleties. And I wanted to, and obviously she's, every time I mean, sorry, when the first time she goes, she holds a lollipop in her hand. He gives her a lollipop. It's almost like a reward for going to him, which is horrible. And I'm like, okay, how do I use symbolism to end the film with a punch? So then I show her like sucking the lollipop on top of her bed, and the camera pans down, and you see empty wrappers of previous visits, basically, of
Mhm.
empty wrappers of lollipops. So you get like that goosebump. So that's a good idea. I mean, that's an example that came to mind quickly regarding symbolism.
Is metaphor another word for symbolism, or
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely, 120%. That's probably a better word. Thank you.
yeah? All right.
Sometimes
So
I translate from my mother language, Arabic. So in Arabic, it's symbolism. That's why. But you are 100% right. Can you? I don't know. The person who asked me about the film grants, if that website is working for you, and just give us a thumbs up. I want to make sure you have it.
he has already put it down over there, saying this is the website, filmdaily.tv.
And if you click on it, I mean, does it activate? Because I've subscribed like years and years ago, so I never really actually go to the website. They send me their newsletter to my email.
Okay, so you can subscribe to it. All right.
Yeah.
Uh, to end the note, It's been a great conversation. I want to ask you one last question, which is, uh, what is the metaphor for Nela's journey?
This is so funny. I don't know why a big elephant walking in the forest comes through a waterfall, takes a nice bath, goes through a tunnel, and comes out as a giraffe. Magic realism. So that's very. I don't know.
I will interpret that metaphor that you just explained,
It's so
because
silly. Just ignore
uh,
it.
no, but I think what you're sharing, what I'm getting from that is, because I always believe words that come out has a significance in some form or shape, and mine is you describing a world of possibilities. You coming out, going through one end and coming out the other end, creating magic. And I truly believe that's amazing.
That's very sweet. Thank you. I really like that. I'll take that. Thank you. It's very
Thank
a lovely note to take and start my day with, and good coffee.
Beautiful. And there is one question Harish has asked again to end the note. Probably you want to answer him.
Oh wow, that's very kind, and that's very kind, sir. Thank you so much. I mean, I what's the word? People aspire. Like I will do my best to be the best I can in filmmaking, and to be really truthful to the kind of work I want to make. In the end, Deepa Mehta's father said once, and she said that, so I'm quoting her directly. There are two things you never know in life: one, you're gonna die, and what your film will make, like how it will be perceived. So I have no control over that. But as a filmmaker myself, I will do everything I can to punch super hard and to break every glass ceiling I can. So the rest is, to
Yeah.
the universe. Yeah.
One very last question from me, because of what you said and what he said over there, asked over there. Do you have a personal mentor in the
Yes, I
industry?
do. Yes, I do. I do. I have a personal mentor. His name is Masoud Amrallah Al Ali. He's also my co-writer for Bob.
Mm.
He's also nicknamed the Godfather of cinema in the Arab world. He has the largest film collection. He's a walking encyclopedia. But more than that, he's a poet, an artist, a man with immense feelings, and he has mentored me for a long time. Um, and on a very short mentorship, I have to say I've spent um, 2 weeks and a half, the most incredible 2 weeks and a half, with Abbas Kiarostami. For people who know him, he was a darling in Cannes, and a darling in the Iranian cinema, where a lot of his films, as you may have seen, just really touched the soul. And I was mentored directly by him, actually. And he said one thing. Of course, he passed away, and it hit me because I was also in a jury duty with him in Abu Dhabi Film Festival a long time ago. And he said, Naila, no matter what films you do, just remember two things, please. One, make sure your films are atmospheric based, because that's your strength. So a lot of atmosphere. And two, don't kill someone in the end of the film. so, so yeah. So God
I,
bless you. RIP. And these are people that impact you for the rest of your life. And yeah. And of course, my last and final mentor, I would say, my family, my children, my husband. They mentor me every day, trust me, in different ways. It's very
I've,
important that, with very serious note, it's extremely, extreme. I can't even stress how important it is to have a positive environment at home, if you can. I mean, it's really important to have. I always said that if people will drag you down, try to leave that space. If they're neutral, make peace with it. It's better than dragging you down. If they lift you up, you're winning. You're already ahead of the game. But if they're neutral, that's also a good one. Because like I struggled with my parents. Um, they shut my film career at the very beginning. I fought very hard, and then they took a very neutral stance, and I made complete peace with it. And I
mm,
know secretly, when they are confronted by other people, because someone told me, they talk very proudly on the phone. They will never let me hear it. They won't give me the satisfaction. But it's quite endearing. And I managed to get my two sisters in the industry by complete sheer coincidence because they're both writers. So they do dialogue writing. They're very good at it. Very good at it. One's more on research, and the other one does more dialogue. So it's really interesting. Yeah.
Beautiful. When you spoke about Abbas Kiarostami and where he said, "Don't kill someone," I was reminded of The Taste of Cherry, where
Yeah.
you know, that movie where they go to the village waiting for somebody to die, and then the person doesn't die.
That's what he said. And it's funny because in my film three, I have, I don't want to sound cheesy, but I do have three endings. I had two, and it's really bad. Also, one of the other good advice: make sure you know your ending. Make sure you know where your film ends before writing, because you can be stuck and you don't know how to finish your film. I did have an ending. That's the funny part. I did have an ending, so I knew how it was going to end. But being, greedy a little bit, just a bit. I thought, oh, I can think of two different ways of ending this, and I did. So I shot three different endings. I really did. One had someone dying, and then one had a very art house ending, and one had the original, which is in the script. Guess which one won? The one in the script. Okay,
Yeah,
the original ending. So the other two were. It's okay.
yeah,
I tried.
beautiful. The first time we met was in a live setting. This one is in an online one. I hope the next one after the release of your Bab 3, we'll have once again in person. I look forward to
Yes,
hearing
and
amazing
hopefully
stories.
in a cinema watching it together, maybe. Huh? That'll be fun.
Absolutely. Would be fun. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. This was so lovely. Thank you so much, Samir. Have an amazing day. And everyone that's listening, please embrace life, as they say. Enjoy every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very
Wow.
much. Bye bye.
Bye.
And that was Nayla for all of you. Thank you very much. Over